We have a little audience here. Hey folks, my name is Jen, and today we're going to do a quick little chit-chat about everything that I read in October. In October I read 13 books. Ha! So, you know, 13, Halloween, October, spooky. Okay, bye! So first up, let's talk about the books that I read for the Boo to You readathon, which is put on by Bookish Princess. Full disclosure here, I did not manage to complete the readathon technically because I did not finish all of the books for all the tickets. The first ticket, which was for Cinderella's Golden Carousel, I believe. The book I picked for it was from, nope, Four Past Midnight by Stephen King. Is actually a collection of 4 novellas, and I only managed to make it through one of them. I ended up getting really freaked out by the Langoliers, which is the first story in there, and I just could not bring myself to continue on. So that's sitting off to the side. I'm hoping to finish that at some point. One of the tickets had like 2 choices. One was Country Bear Jamboree, and the other was Flight to the Moon. I believe that was the one that had like 2 possibilities. And the book that I picked for Flight to the Moon was Heir to the Empire, which I did not finish either, but I made my good chunk of the way through. So if you've seen my November TBR, you know that I plan on reading the second book this month. So I'm hoping to find time to finish Heir to the Empire and then get into Dark Force Rise at some point this month when I'm not drowning in writing, which I'm currently doing. Anyway, the other book that I chose for that was the Country Bear Jamboree, and I picked Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. This is a graphic novel, perfect like fall aesthetic. This follows 2 friends, Deja and Josiah. They have been seasonal friends basically. They only really hang out during the fall when they both work at a Knox world famous pumpkin patch and autumn jamboree. See, there's jamboree in the title. Anyway, this is their last season as they are seniors in high school. In fact, this is their last night as it is a Halloween night, and they have decided to basically slack off from work and go off and try to experience as much of the pumpkin patch and have one last, you know, fun time before the end of the season. It is really cute, like I said, perfect fall aesthetic. I read this twice last year and really loved it, and that's definitely why I really wanted to read it again this fall. It just really sets the mood. I think the artwork itself is incredibly charming. The characters are adorable. It's also really funny. I love how colorful it is, but at the same time, even though it's colorful, it still has like that very kind of fall themed colors. I love this entire thing, and I really love the premise of it, and I really love the glimpses at everything in this pumpkin patch. All the crazy foods, like there is something called a pumpkin bomb, which you see it right here. It is vanilla ice cream sandwiched between 2 wedges of pumpkin pie on a stick dipped in chocolate. Yep, super cute. Love the experience of reading this again. I gave this 5 stars. Another of the ticket prompts that I picked had to do with like Snow White's adventures, and for that I chose How to Hang a Witch by Adriana Mather. This is about a girl named Samantha Mather. Her father is in a coma and he has been moved to a hospital in Boston, and her stepmother have relocated. Her father kind of inherited his mother's house when his mother died several years ago. Samantha didn't really know anything about her grandmother, as her father made sure to keep them apart and never bring her to Salem, Massachusetts, where the house is located. And Sam kind of finds out partially why that might be, because having the last name Mather in Salem probably does not make you very popular. You're a descendant, most likely, of Cotton Mather, who is one of the people who is responsible for the Salem witch trials and the murder of several. So Sam is dealing with worrying about her father, exploring the house and finding out more about family that she didn't know anything about before, and she also has to contend with the local students who already don't like her, in fact hate her, as they are descended from those who were victims of the Salem witch trials. I actually really enjoyed this. I do have to say that it was fairly predictable. It was definitely, there was nothing really unexpected here. Things kind of took a turn at one point, which was exciting. But to be honest, I had a feeling who the villain of the story was in the beginning of the book. But then again, that's me. I don't know if everyone would pick up on potentially who the villain was or not. I read a lot of mysteries, so there's a formula to things. I don't know. And yeah, but it's not to say it was a bad thing. This was actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed making my way through this book in general. I had a good time. I also had a good time reading more about Salem as a setting. It is a place that I have visited a few times and really enjoy. So that part of it is interesting as well. There's also ghosts in here. Love ghost elements. Overall, did really enjoy it. If you are interested in a YA that involves Salem and ghosts and curses and stuff like that, you will probably enjoy yourself. Yeah. I ended up giving this 4 stars. So the next couple of books I read, they were for the ticket that was Jesus. The ticket that included Main Street Cinema, I believe, and I wanted to read one or both of these Goosebumps books. I read both of them, and then I watched the movie of this, which I have to say is way more terrifying than this book is. I did not watch the movie for this because ventriloquist dummies already freak me the fuck out. Only if they look like this, though. If they look like, what's her face? Darcy from, like, America's Got Talent, those cute, like, fuzzy ones, those are fine. Those just look like fun puppets. They don't look like a den of nightmares like this does. First one, Haunted Mask. Carly Beth is really tired of being scared all the time. Everyone knows how easily scareable she is, and in fact they enjoy terrifying the fuck out of her all the time. Her so-called friends love laughing at her, pranking her, whatever. Carly Beth has enough and decides to scare the crap out of them this Halloween and encounters a mask that is bad news. I have to say, I know that there is like a Goosebumps book that's called Be Careful What You Wish For, or no, it's not called, I think that's a tagline on it, is Be Careful What You Wish For or something like that. But that theme pops up a lot in Goosebumps books in general. Like, kids do something because they want things to turn out that way and they get kind of what they wished for and it turns out to be really terrible. So yeah, this is one of those occasions. I have to say, not as scary as I remember this being as a small child, but then again, I was a little bit like Carly Beth, although I didn't scream bloody murder at everything or get freaked out by the most minuscule, but as someone who still is sometimes and very much was a coward growing up, yeah, this scared the crap out of me, this scared the crap out of me. This is not that scary as an adult. If you are an adult, or perhaps a teenager, and you have been wanting to take a walk down memory lane, but you remember how much this scared you as a kid and you're a little hesitant, don't be. At least not with these two. They're not that scary. I know that Welcome to Dead House freaked me out, and I would not. I haven't gone back to that, and I never will, so. Yeah, not as horrifying as it was when I was like 8 or 9, but still at the same time very unsettling. R.L. Stine really knows how to try and leave you wondering, oh my god, a hand grabbed me. I heard a noise. Like, you know, he drops things off at good spots. He really knows how to end chapters. I mean, and end a story too with like something just to leave you feeling a little bit off kilter. So that was fun, experiencing that again. Some of this was incredibly 90s. The show itself was also very 90s. You should have at it if you want. I gave this 4 stars though. Creeptastic visuals in both of these books though. This one is Night of the Living Dummy 3. I probably said before, I've read the first 2. It always involves Slappy, this creepy ass dummy that for some reason kids keep bringing him to freaking life. It's like, come on guys. You don't have to read every weird thing you find out loud. This is following Trina and her brother, what's her brother? Dan. Trina and Dan, their dad is kind of a weirdo. He's got a collection of ventriloquist dummies up in the attic. He used to have an act or a shop or some kind of thing, and he just, yeah, he keeps all of his dummies up there, and he gets a hold of them and restores them and keeps them as some kind of dummy museum. It's disturbing. There's all of these dummies, and one day her dad finds one that somebody threw away. Now, first of all, if you find a ventriloquist dummy, or a doll, or any creepy vessel type thing, really, and you find that buried in the trash, wrapped in garbage bags, and like tied up or some kind of thing, that is a giant no from me, dog, and just leave it where it is. Like, don't pick it up. I mean, obviously there's no cursed ventriloquist dummies in real life, but it's safer for everyone if you just leave that shit where it lays. Her dad does not do that, brings it home, and Trina and her brother have a couple of encounters with this dummy. Now there's like voices and movements up in the attic. Her cousin, who's a big scaredy cat, is visiting, and he's scared of the dummy. It's like a whole thing. This was a little more complicated than the other one, but I still really enjoyed it. I don't know how I feel about the characters in here. Everyone kind of sucks, just a little bit. Everyone sucks. Just a little bit of suckage between each character that, you know, however this plays out, you kind of feel like, yeah, you may have deserved that a little bit. But this was, I have to say, more unsettling than the Haunted Mask. But again, that probably has more to do with me and the fact that I already find ventriloquist dummies, like this style of ventriloquist dummies, to be very unsettling. But yeah, still, nice trip down memory lane, I guess. I gave this 4 stars. Next up, one of the prompts was for the Haunted Mansion. And I actually read 2 books that involve haunted houses, mansions, things. The first one is The Haunting of Grade 3. This is by Grace Macarone. There's work being done to the local elementary school, and the 3rd grade, like the entirety of it, needs to be rehoused somewhere else. So they are temporarily, so they are having their school days take place in the historic Blackwell Mansion. You can tell it's a little creepy. I could understand why children would be a little bit frightened of this. There's strange things happening, strange occurrences, and the kids believe that it's haunted. You have a couple of kids that are very logical, and then a couple of other kids, one of whom is extremely obsessed with ghosts, and Ghostbusters is like his favorite movie. So they decide that for a school project they are going to investigate the school and figure out if it actually is haunted. This was predictable. I do remember reading this when I was little and enjoying it. So, I mean, I already, somewhere in my subconscious, knew how this book was going to turn out anyway, but yeah, it is fairly predictable. But I mean, it's a book for kids, and I think it's still a really good light scare for small children. There's also a bunch of humor in here. The descriptions are pretty good overall. I liked all of the characters that were in here, and it felt like you kind of got to know each of them a little bit, which is, you know, nice considering this is like 94 pages. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm half wondering if these kids, these characters are in any other books, because I would like to collect them, you know, for my future kids potentially, because it was really cute and they are well written. You can tell that this is dated. This was published in 1984, and yeah, you can definitely tell that it's old. But nothing's wrong with that. It's just adds to it. It's cute. Enjoyed this. Gave it 4 stars. I made like a whole event out of this. I watched the movie when I was done reading it. Just had a really good time re-experiencing this book. This is, if you don't know, this is about Jack Torrance. He has basically run out of options. He is an alcoholic who is currently sober, and basically he gets offered one last chance to basically save his family. Things have been pretty rough on them. He lost his job recently, and they're kind of scrounging for money, and he gets offered this position as the winter caretaker for the Overlook Hotel in Colorado. So he ends up moving his wife Wendy and their 5-year-old son Danny to the Overlook. They are supposed to be there from basically like October through May, as this is up near a town called Sidewinder, and the road basically is closed off for most of the year, and there's no access to this hotel. It's in a beautiful scenic spot, but because of how much heavy snow kind of happens in the Rockies, there's just no access whatsoever. So someone is needed to kind of take care of the hotel and keep an eye on things, heat the rooms, try to keep a lot of excessive damage from happening. The only thing is that the Overlook Hotel has some bad energy. It's not necessarily not really a good place for a guy who's kind of fighting his demons to stay for a long period of time. And also not a good place to take a small child who happens to be kind of psychic like Danny is. I just truly love this book. The descriptions in here are fantastic. Stephen King really knows how to set the mood. And he does a great job setting the mood and this overall like unsettling hotel. And while this is, you know, technically a horror book, it is just so much more than just a horror story. At the heart of this is kind of like a family drama slash family tragedy. Even when the characters are potentially behaving like shitbags, you can't help but feel for them and kind of want the best for them, even when you know, since this is a horror book, the best probably ain't gonna happen. But I just absolutely love this. The metaphors that he kind of threw in here, there's a lot of interesting details in here, and you get a lot about Jack and his childhood, and probably explaining partially why he's at where he's at right now, and trying to not be the same type of man his father was, but then dealing with like the love that he still had for his family. And then you have Danny, who's so young, who knows things aren't the great, and like his love that he has for his dad. And it's just like, it's very interesting, and it's also you know, kind of emotional at some points. There's a couple parts in here that really get me going a little bit, but I really love this book so much. I feel like I'm not quite expressing this correctly, how much and what I really love about this, but yeah, it was just a wonderful reread. I gave this 5 stars. And then the next book that I read was Dr. Sleep. This is the sequel to The Shining, kind of unexpected sequel. This was written a few years ago. This takes place when Danny, now Dan Torrance, is an adult. This covers basically the the circumstances following the events that happened at the Overlook Hotel. And this kind of starts immediately following, you know, the events that took place in The Shining, to through Danny's kind of adulthood, when he himself has become an alcoholic and is kind of dealing with the consequences of his own actions while he's drunk. And not only is this kind of following him and him trying to get to a point where he is sober and trying to fight hard against turning out like his dad. He interspersed in between there is also bits about a very special little girl who is extremely psychic, and she also shines. But meanwhile, in the background there is also this evil that is lurking. So this was the second time that I've read this, actually, and I enjoyed it as much as I did the first time, I think. I really loved this. I find it to be, I think, one of the best sequels I've ever read. There were just some very great parallels between Danny's struggle as an adult, as well as him facing his own demons and kind of helping a child, as opposed to the struggles that his father went through, and the similarities between the two it's very interesting and very well done. And it kept me completely captivated all the way through this reread. And the bad guys in general just kind of really creeped me out. I didn't get as, I think, unsettled as I remember being while reading The Shining. To be honest, I was mostly more like angry, like these people can go suck it kind of angry. But yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed this reread. But overall, just fast-paced, interesting, loved revisiting it, great time. I give this 5 stars. As for other books that were on my TBR last month, I also managed to read The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. This is a book that takes place in 3 different time periods. One time period is like present day, or kind of, not really present day is 2013, but it's close enough to present day. And then it's interspersed with 1950, a couple of different years in the 50s, and then also 1980, the summer of like 1989. This is basically following 2 sisters, Piper and, what is it, Margot? Piper and Margot. They befriended this girl named Amy, who lived at the nearby Tower Motel in rural Vermont during the summer of 1989. They were, you know, kind of exploring the hotel, and they find something entirely unsettling that basically shatters their friendship forever. Flash forward to 2013, and tragedy has struck. There is a truly gruesome crime that Amy has committed as an adult, and there is a message that was scrawled that seems to be addressed towards both Piper and Margot, recalling the discoveries that they made when they were kids, and basically forces them to kind of revisit the past of the Tower Hotel, following 2 sisters who grew up there in the 1950s. I didn't mind the time shifts between the 3 time periods, and I actually kind of liked that element to the story because it kept you guessing for a little while. I do have to say though, I wasn't a super fan of the results of this book. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure still what the hell I read here. It definitely managed to keep my attention all of the way through, but the ending that I got was not the ending that I necessarily was expecting, or really was okay with, I guess. It was just, it felt a little too easy. It feels weird to say that, but the conclusion of things just felt a little bit too, it felt like it could have been building to something more than what was the end result. And also the way it turned out just felt a little bit different. Like how things are worded on the back of the book made me expect something else as a conclusion than what actually occurred. I'm sorry, I'm being vague, but that's because I don't want to like ruin things for anyone in case you actually do want to read this. Like I've heard people say, I read a whole bunch of reviews because I wanted to see if anyone else felt the way I did about this. But a lot of people really seem to love this, or if they weren't particularly fond of it, they said that actually The Winter People, one of her other books, is way better. I don't know. There's a review on the back of this which says, you know, there's issues of forgiveness, family legacies, and unconditional love. And to be honest, I think this is completely wrong because I saw the sibling rivalry and the family legacies, but I didn't really see forgiveness or unconditional love. This was like a fucking fever dream, basically, for like 3/4 of this book. I think partially what my problem is that I don't know what the hell this is. I don't know if it's a psychological thriller, is it a horror, is it like some form of dark fantasy? Like I think that's the problem, because it was very unclear as to what this is actually supposed to be, and I had a really hard time figuring that out. Like I said, it did keep my attention all the way through, but the ending itself, when I got to it, just left me wanting, I guess, and I felt like I had a bad taste in my mouth overall, as opposed to just being like shocked or freaked out or excited or whatever. I didn't really go, oh my god. I went, what the fuck did I just read? And that honestly is not a reaction that I really want. I want to be shocked and excited about something. I don't necessarily want to be like, why did I read this? This is going in my donation pile. Overall, I ended up giving this like 3 stars. I thought about giving it 4 because, like I said, the writing is pretty good and it did hold my attention, but I ultimately gave it a little bit less than that because, like I said, I can't figure out what this is supposed to be. And that was, I think, overall very confusing. Is like, what are you going for here? Because it was, yeah. Another book that I read off my monthly TBR was I Hope You're Listening by Tom Ryan. This is following Dee. 10 years earlier, she went into the woods with her best friend Sibby to play, and Dee was the only one who came out of the woods. Sibby was never seen again. Like I said, flash forward to present day, and Dee is known as the girl who came out of the woods, the girl who survived. She is still holding on to some guilt, even though she was a very small child. I think she was like 7 at the time. Obviously, you can't be held responsible for like somebody taking your best friend when you're just, I mean, that's nothing. But she is holding on to that guilt because she wasn't able to find her best friend or prevent that crime from happening. She has fairly recently started a podcast called Radio Silent, where she anonymously posts information about missing persons cases and tries to organize online sleuths to help locate these people and solve more cases. Another little girl has gone missing in town. There seems to be a possible link to Sibby's disappearance when they were kids, and Dee finds herself having to kind of confront what she went through as a child and see if there is anything she can even do to help, as she doesn't remember what happened when she was a kid at all. This was great. Like, this was just absolutely fantastic. I loved Dee. I loved actually all of the characters. This flashes back between present day and that time 10 years ago. Memories leading up to and then the day of Sibby's disappearance. It is just, I loved the flashbacks, the present day, the other characters. Dee herself is just awesome. I love her bedroom. She's like up in the like attic basically of her house. She sounds like she has the coolest bedroom. And anyway, I loved the podcast element to this book as well. Super fascinating. Missing persons cases are something that always freaks me out a little bit, to be honest, because it just really freaks me out, the idea that people can just disappear. Like, that's not possible. Like, a whole human being just can't into the ether, you know? There has to be a reason, there has to be stuff, and it's like sometimes they just seem to just evaporate, and it really freaks me out a lot. But I really liked how this handled that. I just overall really enjoy this. It's also incredibly like fast-paced and entertaining, and I just, my god, I really, really loved this. There's like a budding friendship relationship thing in here, also really loved as well. I just, I loved this book so much. Definitely kind of spooky, not really like horror spooky, but there are spooky elements to this as well. I just absolutely adored this book. It's definitely going to go on one of my top reads for this year because I had a wonderful time reading it. Getting to the conclusion was fantastic. I just love the experience overall. I gave this 5 stars. And then I ended up reading a couple of books that were not on my monthly TBR. The first of which was continuing in my read of my like Oz Chronicles collection. I read book 4, which is Ozma of Oz. Nope, I lied. Don't listen to me. Not number 4. I am currently in the middle of number 4. Number 3 is the book I read. Number 3, Ozma of Oz. This is following Dorothy. She is on a boat with Uncle Henry. His health has been pretty crap lately, so they are headed to Australia so he can spend some time in a warmer climate with some family out there and try to regain some of his health and strength. Dorothy goes along to just kind of help out. So there is a storm that happens and Dorothy ends up getting washed overboard, as well as like this hen house containing a chicken. And Dorothy and this chicken soon find themselves in a fantastical land, which Dorothy realizes is pretty fantastical when the chicken starts talking. The chicken's name is Bill, but Dorothy quickly tells Bill that you're a girl, you can't be called Bill. Excuse me. No, you can be called Bill if you're a girl. That's fine. But anyway, per 1908 or whatever, you can't be called Bill if you're a girl, so her name is Bellina. Overall, and they're just sent back to Oz, basically. When they get there, they kind of encounter Ozma, who has recently been put in charge of Oz, and Dorothy also encounters her old friends, the Tin Man, Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion. So, yeah. Overall, it was fun and fantastical. If I was a kid, I would probably enjoy it a lot more. As an adult, there seemed like overall there were kind of subtle digs at like gender roles and people non-conforming to them, and just some stuff that I was like, I don't know if I approve. But then again, it's like, it's at the turn of the century, early 1900s literature for children, so it's, you know, to be expected, I guess. So Bellina is really annoying as a character. Like, incredibly annoying. Like, I would probably think about making a freaking pot pie out of her, like that level of annoying. But overall, yeah, it was kind of cute. Like I said, there are some fun elements to it, some fantastical elements to it. Yeah, if I'd read it as a small child, I would have been thrilled. I currently gave it 3 stars. I might change it to 4. I haven't made up my mind. I had kind of a wishy-washy month with a couple of stories, so I don't know. The next book that I ended up picking up It's actually one that I started back in like August randomly, and then I hadn't finished it. That was Dead Sleep by Greg Iles. This is following Jordan Glass. She's a world famous photographer who is ironically the daughter of a world famous photographer who took a lot of important photographs over seas during the Vietnam War, and unfortunately went missing. Where'd he go missing? Cambodia? Yeah, I think he went missing in Cambodia in like the 70s or something. Jordan has always believed that her father is potentially alive. She absolutely adored her father, and pretty much tries to carry on his legacy by also going to kind of volatile conflicts all over the world, and risking her life to do photojournalism. And it was at one point while she is overseas in Hong Kong that she ends up being drawn to a museum where she encounters a painting of a nude woman, and it looks like her. The thing is that it's not her though, because Jordan also has a twin sister, like an identical twin sister who has actually been missing for like a year. Jordan is convinced that this is potentially her sister, and she believes also that her sister is possibly dead, and this painting is in a series of a bunch of nude women, and they all seem to be reclining or looking in such a way that Jordan also suspects all of them are dead, and somewhere out there is a serial killer who is killing and painting beautiful women. So I have a very hard time figuring out how I feel about this book overall. Was there a very interesting serial killer involved in here? Yes. Very interesting, very action-packed, a lot of stuff is going on. Did I like any of the characters? Not so much. Was there potentially some bigotry in here? Maybe. It's weird because this is definitely discussing some very tough conflicts that have happened over the years in Asian countries. So there's that, but at the same time there's also some wording, some phrasing, the way things are kind of put about modern day Asia of the time, and some opinions about Asian businessmen that overall it's hard to say. It's very hard to say because I don't know if I'm being like overly sensitive about it, and it's not really meant in that kind of way, or if it very much is meant that way. I'm sorry, I'm not really explaining this the way I want to explain it, or really talking about this in the way that I want to talk about it, because I'm just not sure. This is the first Greg Iles book that I've ever read. This is a part of a series, apparently. I don't know if Greg Iles is like this in all of his books, if it's just this particular one, if he's writing in this particular way because of some of the contents of this book, if he's always kind of towing the line between maybe racist and maybe not. Like, I'm not 100% sure. If any of you have read other Greg Iles books, if you've read this book, please can you like let me know how you felt about it, like if there was something that I'm missing, if I'm being overly sensitive about it. I'm not sure. It was just like some things that were said in here just kind of gave me pause a little bit, and yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, like I said, serial killer, very interesting. Characters, don't know how I really feel about them. The bigoted stuff, is it bigoted? Is it not? Like I said, I don't know. And it's because of this, I don't really know how to feel about this book overall, and I don't really know how I feel about potentially picking up Greg Isles in the future. If I ever do again, maybe I'll borrow it, maybe I'll go to the library. Maybe, I don't know. I have to look into more of his books, maybe look into some more reviews of his books perhaps, because I don't really know how to take this overall. I will say that even if it's not like completely racist, there's definitely some things that could be considered at the very least microaggressions in here, so just know that that's in here. There's a lot of violent visuals in here as well, a lot more than I was really expecting. That's probably my fault because I didn't do a lot of research about this guy's writing before I got this book and started reading it, and I read a lot of mysteries, but to be honest, most of them end up being more cozy, where there is violence described, but not quite to the detail of modern thriller writers and how gory they seem to like to be. So there were some details in here, which frankly is the reason why I started this in August and didn't pick it up again until October. Because some of those details kept me up at night. Some pretty violent and gruesome writing. There's also rape is a big part of this as well. In fact, there are some details of a very violent rape in here as well. So just keep that in mind if you think about picking this up. Yeah, I ended up giving it 3 stars because I don't know. And I still don't know how I feel about this or what is going on or if I'm ever going to read any of his again. I don't know, guys. Let me know if you know more about his writing or this book or this series or fuck, I don't know. The next book that I read was a manga. I ended up picking up and reading I Married My Best Friend, Shut My Parents Up. This is by Kodama Naoko. This is following Morimoto, who is a young professional woman in Japan. Her parents are always kind of bothering her about when she's going to settle down and get married with a successful young man. And they're always sending her like flyers or brochures and things about eligible single men. Morimoto wants to focus on her career. She doesn't really have an interest in love overall. And she is just really tired of hearing this shit from her family. And she also doesn't like the fact that some of the guys at her work just kind of assume because she's a lady, she's just gonna eventually get married and leave. So why bother promoting her? Why bother doing anything like that? Because, you know, she's just gonna go home and be a baby maker anyway. So Morimoto is complaining to one of her friends from high school about this on a lunch date, and her friend suggests, well, we could get married and, you know, maybe then your parents will get off your back. So they end up getting a sham marriage, which is one of my, like I probably said before, one of my favorite tropes is fake relationship that becomes real relationship. Kind of love it. This was just a really cute little standalone. I really liked both of the characters in here. I thought that, like I said, it was very adorable. The art itself is kind of super cute, but I would have liked to see more of this because it's super cute, and I wanted to see more like cuteness and more things developing between the two. But yeah, overall super cute. Love the art style. I really liked that it did seem to touch on some things, like it touched on the romance, of course, but also putting up with your parents' expectations, and then they don't have the world's greatest reaction to her marrying Morimoto marrying Hana, so if that is something that could potentially be triggering or upsetting for you, just know that. But so it touches upon that. It touches upon like job equality in a sense, like Morimoto trying to prove like, hey, just because I happen to be a girl doesn't mean that I don't work as freaking hard as all the guys in this office, like that kind of thing. I really liked how things were starting to develop, and I like that it wasn't really addressed directly, but there's almost potentially some kind of hint that Morimoto might be asexual, perhaps? I'm not 100% sure. Like, I know the bare minimum about asexuality, and I am not that, so I can't be like 100% certain, but it feels like that is potentially in here. I don't know. If that is what it's meant, well, there's some rep for you right there, maybe. Yeah, I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And the book that I finished out the month with is Llewellyn Sabbath Essentials, Samhain, Rituals, Recipes, and Lore for Halloween. This is a little informational guide to the pagan Sabbath or holiday of Samhain. This is basically really informative. It talks about old traditions, new traditions, spells, divination, recipes and crafts that you can do, prayers, rituals of celebration, and then has a great index for all kinds of correspondences and everything, more books that you can read. This is part of a series. Llewellyn has a guide for each Sabbath, and this was the first of theirs I've ever read, and I really liked it. I think there's a lot of information here that is really helpful if you are curious and you want more information or ideas and things like that. And I really liked the history on how this was celebrated in the old countries, basically, and how it started over here, and the tie-ins with All Hallows Eve. And it also talks about other practices that other religions and cultures have around this time, this previous time of the year anyway. Overall, I thought this was a great guide. I found it to be very informative and helpful, and I gave this 5 stars. Anyways, folks, that is the end of this wrap-up. These are all the books that I read in October. Sorry if I rambled at any point in there. I'm hoping this is a little shorter than my usual. Sorry about that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of the books, let me know down below. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, I hope you are having a wonderful November so far, and I hope that you had a great reading month last month and are enjoying your reads this month as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.